But the hardware isn't what makes our camera so much better. The special sauce that makes our Pixel camera unique is our computational photography. And who better to talk about it than Professor Mark Lavoie from Google Research.
Thanks, Sabrina. It's great to be here. There's a saying among photographers that what's important to taking a great picture is, in order, subject, lighting, lens, and the camera body. It's their way of saying that it doesn't matter which SLR body you use unless you get the first three elements right. Well, here's a slightly different take on this list: subject, lighting, lens, software. So by software, I mean computational photography. So what does that mean? It means doing less with hardwired circuitry and more with code. I like to call it a software-defined camera. It typically means capturing and combining multiple pictures to make a single, better picture. One version of this is HDR+, the technology we've used for taking photos on every Pixel phone. When you tap the shutter button, we capture a burst of up to 9 pictures. These pictures are deliberately underexposed to avoid blowing out highlights. We align them using software and average them, which reduces noise in the shadows. This lets us brighten the shadows, giving you detail in both the highlights and the shadows. In fact, there's a simple formula. Noise goes down as the square root of the number of images you average together. So if you use 9 images, you get 1/3 as much noise. This isn't mad science, it's just simple physics. By the way, on the left is our raw output if you enable that in the app. There's something else about this list. It says the lens is important, without quibbling about the order on the list. Some subjects are farther away than you'd like, so it does help telephoto shots to have a telephoto lens. So Pixel 4 has a roughly 2x telephoto lens plus our super res zoom technology. In other words, a hybrid of optical and digital zoom, which we use on both the main and telephoto lenses, so you get sharp imagery throughout the zoom range. Here's an example. You probably think this is a 1x photo. It's not. It's a zoom taken from way back here. By the way, super res zoom is real multi-frame super resolution, meaning that pinch zooming before you take the shot gives you a sharper photo than cropping afterwards. So don't crop like this. Compose the shot you want by pinch zooming. Also, by the way, most popular SLR lenses do magnify scenes, not shrink them. So while wide angle can be fun, we think telephoto is more important. So what new computational photography features are we launching with Pixel 4? 4 of them. First, Live HDR+. Everyone here is familiar with HDR+'s signature look and its ability to capture extreme brights and darks in a way that looks crisp and natural. But even phones with good HDR solutions can't compute them in real time, so the viewfinder often looks different from the final image. In this example, the window is blown out on the viewfinder, which might tempt you into fiddling with the exposure. This year, we're using machine learning to approximate HDR+ in the viewfinder, so you get our signature look while you compose your shot. We call this feature Live HDR+. So the industry's most successful HDR solution is now real-time and WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Now, if we have an intrinsically HDR camera, we should have HDR controls for it. So Pixel 4 has dual exposure controls. Here's an example. This is a nice HDR+ shot, but maybe you would like to try it as a silhouette. So you tap on the screen and lower the brightness slider a bit. That mainly changes the capture exposure. Then you lower the shadows slider a lot. That mainly changes the tone mapping. And voila, you get a different artistic vision. Try doing that with any other cell phone. So, separate sliders for brightness and shadows while you compose your shot. It's a different way of thinking about controlling exposure in a camera. Second, white balancing in photography is a hard problem. Mathematicians call it an ill-posed problem. Is this snow blue the way this SLR originally captured it? Or is it white snow illuminated by a blue sky? We know that snow is white. With enough training, so can the camera. We've been using learning-based white balancing in night sight since Pixel 3. In Pixel 4, we're using it in all photo modes. So you get truer colors, especially in tricky lighting. Here's a tough case, an ice cave. It's blue light, but not a blue person. And here's what it looks like with Pixel 4's white balancing. Third, we've continued to improve portrait mode. With our dual pixel or split pixel technology, we've always been good at portraits and at macro shots. This year, we're computing depth, again using machine learning, from both dual pixels and dual cameras, which gives us accurate depth farther from the camera. This extends portrait mode to large objects and stand further back portraits. We also have a luscious new SLR-like bokeh. That's the shape of the blur. Look at the lights on either side of her head. We're doing better on hair and dog fur, which are hard. And of course, we still do great selfie portraits. Fourth and last, we have continued to improve night sight in many ways and extended it to a use case that has always been sort of a holy grail for me. You could have taken this dusk shot using Pixel 3 last year. Using Pixel 4, you can take this nighttime picture from the same viewpoint. In the year since we launched it, night sight has been called everything from fake to sorcery. Well, it's neither. Think back to the mathematics that I explained at the beginning. Astrophotography is about taking longer exposures and more of them, up to 16 seconds times 15 exposures. That's 4 minutes, but it's a single shutter press and it's fully automatic. By the way, you can't do this with a single long exposure. In 4 minutes, the stars do move and trees wave in the wind. So you need robust alignment and merging of multiple pictures. And for a 4-minute exposure, we do recommend a tripod, or you can prop your phone on a rock. Is there machine learning? Yes. We use it for white balancing, as I mentioned. We also use semantic segmentation in all our photo modes and have for years to brighten faces in HDR+, a feature we call synthetic fill flash, to separate foregrounds from backgrounds in portrait shots, and to darken and denoise skies in night sight. Is there computational photography? There's lots of that, too. Digital sensors are prone to hot pixels that are stuck at red, green, or blue. The longer the exposure, the more hot pixels. Our exposures are pretty long, so we need some clever algorithms to remove those hot pixels. By the way, that's our astrophotography field testing team. And yes, they sat still for a long time for this shot. So where does this game stop? What can't we capture using Pixel 4? Well, we can capture the moon, which, by the way, required some fiddling with those dual exposure controls I told you about. And we can capture a moonlit landscape. This is not daytime. It's the middle of the night. and the landscape is illuminated only by the moon. See the stars? But what we can't do, including on Pixel 4 today, is capture both at once in the same picture. The problem here is that the moon is blown out and the Marin headlands at the bottom are just a silhouette. The dynamic range, the difference in brightness between a full moon and a moonlit landscape is 19 f-stops. That's 19 doublings, about 500,000 times brighter, way beyond the range of any consumer camera, even an SLR. So, is this scene forever impossible with a cell phone? Remember what I said at the beginning about software-defined camera? Pixel is committed to making its cameras better with software updates. So stay tuned on this one. To sum up, 4 new computational photography features. Live HDR+ with dual exposure controls, learning-based white balancing, wider range portrait mode with an SLR bokeh, and night sight with astrophotography. Oh, and remember, you can use night sight for many things besides stars. Many things. So go out there and be creative with Pixel 4. Now, it's my honor to introduce one of my favorite artists, who has spent her career creating some of the most memorable photographs of the last 50 years. 12 months ago, we gave her a Pixel, and she's taken it all over the country to build a new collection of portraits. She also gives us suggestions and candid feedback, which we've taken to heart in the tuning of the Pixel 4 camera. So please welcome my friend Annie Leibovitz, along with our own Lily Lin.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, Annie. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. It was,
Yes.
this is an extraordinary opportunity that Google gave me, and I've always been interested in the camera phone and what it could do and what its potential was. And Google came to me and said, "We'd like to support you in some sort of artistic endeavor." And we thought of this project, and I mean, it's obvious what's interesting about a camera phone. I mean, it's is you can carry it in your pocket, for example. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I know that you've been using the camera for over a year now to shoot a collection of photographs, some of which we're seeing the behind the scenes here. Can you tell us more about the project?
Well, we started really with the Pixel 3, and I was very suspicious and very careful with it, and it really became an exercise in light and composition and content, and then when the Pixel 4 came along, I was kind of very impressed about how I relaxed with it and just glided with it and used it and really just enjoyed taking pictures. I'm really towards the end of, I mean, we're going to be doing more work, but towards the end of the work that we were doing, I felt like I was just beginning to sort of get it. And I just let the camera do the work, quite honestly, and really enjoyed myself. But the project, the people,
Some of which we have here today, Noor and Chase and Idris.
Noor and Chase, it's incredible. I mean, the people made the project. I mean, we really turned to people who care and people who matter and people who are doing things that give us hope, and across the board. And every single person that we photographed is doing something that they care about what they're doing, and they represent great parts of us who are getting on with it.
Change makers, I think, is what I've heard you call them, true change makers around the country. So you've been traveling, speaking of country,
Google-
traveling across the country, shooting these amazing
No,
subjects.
When Google first came to me, they sort of totally seduced me by saying, "Would you like to drive across the country?" And then and that turned into, of course, going back to people. So.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know if you see what I did was I decided to take 2 photographs to create a portrait, and because it's hard to say what you want to say about a person, especially these extraordinary people, in one picture. And so I made it a diptych and took two photographs. For example, with Sarah Zorn from the Citadel, there's a photograph of her, almost on graduation day in her uniform, but next to her is a photograph of the boots she wore for 4 years, every single day. So.
Well, so I have to ask, I'm so curious, because you have access to the world's best camera equipment. So how is it different with this project, just having what you have in your pocket now? What was that experience like?
Well, I've been using, like everyone else, camera phones for a while, and the whole idea was, can you use it to go out and do work as a photographer? And I was dying for this opportunity, to be given this opportunity by Google to sort of develop, the camera phone for a photographer and how to use it. And as I said before, it was a little bit of a rough start, and then I just relaxed, and I really totally enjoyed myself. One of the last shoots with Meg, the soccer player, it really felt like we were just floating. I mean, she was really a beautiful, anyway, she was just a beautiful muse, and I took these photographs that I wasn't really thinking about the camera or thinking, just really composing, and the light was beautiful, and she had that red shock of hair, and
It's great.
it was great.
That's great. Well, so before we go, since I have you, I have to ask, what pro tips do you have for all of us here who want to take beautiful images like this with the phone in your pocket?
Oh, it's all inside you. I mean, you just go out and you do it. It's all there. I think what's great about the camera phone. I mean, my children use this camera, and I mean, we all are using this camera, and it's a brand new language. And if you want to do something more specific, then you may fall into another category, and you're a photographer. But it's just really great that this is available for everyone to use.
The democratization of photography is what I've heard you call it. So
I think it's great.
thank you so much, and
Okay.
thank you. I wish we had more time, but I know you, as well as Nor, Chase, Idris, are going to be sticking around. So thank you for that. Thanks for joining us on stage. And guys, Annie Leibovitz.
Okay. Thank you.